Late on Saturday evening, my wife and I were sat down in front of the television trying to get a streaming service to work. This was not a case of Prime, Netflix, or Hulu breaking down on us. Rather, it was the challenge of finding a way to get to the live stream of the Texas Association of Private and Parochial Schools, known as TAPS, to watch the highly anticipated high school basketball Division IIIA championship game. On a normal Saturday evening, we are not searching for high school basketball games to watch, let alone ones from the state of Texas, but this was a special occasion. Nicole's brother David is the basketball coach at the Yavneh High School in Dallas, and they were playing in the state championship game for their conference. A minute or two into the first quarter, we finally got it to jump from our phone screen to the television. We then sat hooked until the final buzzer as we watched the Yavneh Bulldogs triumph over Rose Hill Christian Eagles 50-35. For our family, it was a joyful occasion. We've seen the Bulldogs play live on visits to Dallas, and it was wonderful to see David reach the very top and win the championship. But this was also a historic night. The Yavneh Bulldogs were the first Jewish high school team to win a basketball state championship ever in America. An email was shared amongst the family about the success, and then an amazing thing happened. The press picked up on the story. Initially, there were articles within the Dallas Jewish community. This was followed by articles in the wider Jewish world, gaining global coverage, and then it was picked up by the Dallas Morning News with interviews of David on radio and television. It is amazing how a story can spread and go viral. This week, while we were watching and enjoying the spread of the story of the Yavneh Bulldogs and their basketball triumph, we were also watching the spread of another story that was not bringing any joy or pleasure. Without doubt, this past week's news cycle has been dominated by the spread of the coronavirus, COVID-19, around the world and in America. Only a few weeks ago, we were reading about it as a problem over there, but this week it has felt definitively like a problem that is here. I think that one of the major problems today is that we are living in a world with a 24/7 news cycle and instant access to stories and reports from both reputable and unverified sources. The spread of this disease has been rapid, but the spread of the news of the disease and the ensuing fear and panic it has produced has been exponentially faster. As a synagogue, we thankfully purchased a number of large Purell containers in the middle of last week, because by Friday, the shelves were bare, and hand sanitizer became a commodity that was impossible to come by. When I went for my weekly shop on Tuesday, I was astounded to see that toilet paper aisle in Target had been emptied by people panic buying and preparing for a possible 2-week quarantine. The spread of news and information today can be dizzying, disorientating, and far too fast to keep up with. I can't help but wonder how much the anxiety and the fear around the spread of the coronavirus has been exacerbated by the way that news and information is transmitted and consumed today. Many have suggested that we are living in a time of fear. And over this past week, it feels like that fear has increased exponentially. Coronavirus is now the thing to fear. And in this climate of fear, we do not have rational conversations about the real mortality rates of the disease. The fact that we are more likely to get the flu than to catch COVID-19, or the truth that through thorough hygiene practices, we significantly minimize the risks to ourselves and those around us. Instead, we are simply afraid, watching the news every minute for the next breaking report, or switching off the television for fear of what we'll see. We've whipped one another into a panic-buying frenzy and a fear of what might happen, with no certainty at all of what will actually happen. How afraid should we be? What fears are real? And what do we do in a climate of fear? The great Jewish scholar Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik wrote, "I know that I am perplexed, that my fears are irrational, incoherent. At times I am given over to panic. I am afraid of death. At other times I am horrified by the thought of becoming, God forbid, incapacitated during my lifetime. I don't know what to fear, what not to fear. I am utterly confused and ignorant." For today, I simultaneously know that there seem to be so many things that I should be afraid of, and at the same time have no clue about what really to be frightened of. Rabbi Rachel Timona writes, the word courage comes from the Latin cor, meaning heart. In Hebrew, courage is ometz lev, heart strength. Courage is not the absence of fear, but heart strength. It is the ability to do what must be done even when we are afraid. Fear is inescapable. How do we develop ometz lev, heart strength? She shares a midrash from Genesis Rabbah. The rabbis ask, given his fear of his brother Esau, why did Jacob settle so close to him? A story is told. There once was a man who, while on a journey, saw a pack of wild dogs, and he was seized with fear of them. What did he do? He sat down among them. Today, even if we wanted to, it would be almost impossible to find a place to run away from the fears that are gripping us. And so we need to find a way to be like Jacob and to sit with our fears. We need to accept that there are things that we can be and things that we should be afraid of, but our response must be courageous. Our response should develop the ometz lev, both for now and that will be a support for us in the future. As a Jewish community, we have faced fear many times throughout our history, and we have learned that we cannot and should not ignore fear. Instead, we must face it and respond. The response to the coronavirus today is to look after ourselves. In Judaism, we have always recognized the importance of looking after our bodies. One element of the idea that our bodies are created in the image of God is to remind us that they are sacred. They need to be cared for and nurtured. It is no accident that the washing of the hands is a central part of almost every Jewish ritual experience. It is so important that at our Seder tables, we don't do it once, we actually do it twice. In the morning, before we thank God for our souls with the words of Elohai Neshama, we actually thank God for the gift of our bodies. And in that prayer, we recognize how all of the pathways and openings need to be tended and looked after. And before we even get to praying, in the Shulchan Aruch, the Jewish legal code, we are told that a person should wash both their hands before prayer. We can be afraid, but we can also respond. And then Judaism has always taught that before we put too much faith in fear, or even in hope, we need to verify what is true and what is not. I think that this is part of the reason that we are told, if you are planting a tree and you hear that the Messiah has come, finish planting the tree before you go and check. We know that news can spread quickly, more so today than at any other time in our history. But as a community, we have always believed in the importance of verifying what is really true and of continuing to live our lives and then of responding to what may be out there. So why did I begin by telling you about the Yavneh basketball team? In part, it is because I'm a very proud brother-in-law, and also because I know that David is watching. But it also serves as a reminder that we don't just have to be the passive victims of those who spread fear and bad news. We can also be among those who make good news go viral. We can take it upon ourselves to post, tweet, and email the good news stories that we see. In Judaism, we're told that one of the worst things you can do and have is lashon hara, an evil tongue. And the opposite, we're told in Judaism, is an ayin tovah, a good eye. A good eye in Judaism is one that sees the good out there in the world. An ayin tovah, a good eye in Judaism, is one that shares that good news and spreads that good news. That's the opposite of lashon hara. That's the opposite of all this fear and bad news that we allow to go viral. And that's why at the end of this service, as we do now on the first Friday of every month, we have a moment to hakarat hatov, to have gratitude and share our joys, those celebrations in our lives, those positives that we want to go viral right now. I think that maybe this week we need Shabbat not just as a break from work, but as an opportunity to hit pause on all of the fears that are surrounding us. Perhaps 24 hours of avoiding the news will be good for our stress levels, and for alleviating some fears. This Shabbat, we can feel the strength and support of a community that comes together to celebrate despite what might be going on out there. Shabbat can be a time to care for our bodies, to care for our souls, and to recharge our batteries, developing the Ometz Lev, the courage to step out once again, and focusing more keenly our Ayin Tovah, our good eye. I hope that we can all emerge from this Shabbat refreshed, renewed, and reinvigorated. Shabbat Shalom.